What is up, and welcome back, guys, to another episode of Smalls That Sell and Making Money with Woodworking. So for those of you that are new to the channel and wondering what this is all about, it's all about being able to recognize what's hot, what's trending, what items can you move, and then being able to break that apart in your head so you can put your own twist to it and build a version that you can sell. I have several different builds to break down, so let's go ahead and hop into it. So while doing my research on what is hot and trending in the big box stores right now, I came across this, and I thought that it was pretty cool. Okay, so like I'd mentioned several times before, anytime that something has been a bestseller and popular for a long time, the stores just change something about it. They just change it up, make it unique in their own way, or just call it something else. And that's exactly what they have done with these cutting boards. So obviously the traditional cutting board is on its way out as far as popularity, but these big box stores want to capitalize on the popularity that they had because they know that the market is huge for these. And they came up with this, a set of nesting cutting boards. So people love anything that nests, anything that goes together, kind of like the old school nesting dolls. They have nesting baskets, they have nesting whatever. They can go inside of something or connect to something like a puzzle piece. They make it and they sell it. So that's exactly what they've done here. They've taken a previously hot item and then they've mixed it up with a hot concept. Nesting. But what I really liked about this is just how easy it is to make. So this particular set is 15 inches wide by 15 inches tall, and it's only 5/8 of an inch thick. So 5/8 of an inch thick seems a little bit thin to me. Even if you were to oil this really well, if you get any type of moisture in this at that width, it's going to end up cupping. So if you decide to make this, go with a little bit thicker material just to be on the safe side. So I know what you're saying. I do not have a solid piece of wood that's 15 inches wide. Well, check this out. So you can actually see the glue joints in this where they just glued up their 5/8 material. So to start with, whatever material that you decide to use, you can glue it up to a square of any size. And another thing that I really like about this is that they are focusing on handmade. Actually, in the title, in the description, there's actually even a little handmade logo there. So since this company is focusing so much on the point that it's handmade, obviously they have seen an uptick for people wanting handmade items, and that's where you come in. Almost everything that you're going to make will be handmade. So take a note from their marketing playbook, and anything that you sell, make sure that people know that it's handmade. You would think that it would be obvious that they know that it's handmade, but it never hurts to remind them. Okay, so they're focusing on the point that it's handmade. They have actually zoomed in on shots of mistakes or wide areas where everything doesn't nest perfectly. They want to prove that a laser did not cut this out. And even the holes in the handles at the top, you can see that they're kind of misshapen and not perfectly cut. Now you can cut these perfectly with a hole saw, but I would actually go back in with a jigsaw and kind of make it misshapen and roughed up a little bit. Again, they do not want the perfect, pristine cutting board look. They want this primitive Americana handmade look. And as far as making this two-piece set, well, actually it's just one board. And you can see that they've just cut this curved profile out using a jigsaw or a bandsaw. So this is super simple to do. And to prove it, I'm going to make a set real quick. This is just a square piece of glued up material. Mine's a little thicker, it's 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's only about 12 inches wide. So it's going to be a little smaller than this, but you'll kind of get the point. And the neat thing about this design is you don't have to do it exactly like the pictures that I just showed you. Let's say that if it's close to Valentine's Day, you could actually do a heart and then make your cut down the middle. And then when they're pushed back together, it's nesting. So you can really make pretty much any type of design that you want. If you like this style and you want longer boards, let's say for bread or something like that, then just simply add some length to your material before you sketch it out. So sketching it out. I know a lot of people say, I can't draw, I can't do this, I can't do that. I cannot draw like at all. So no excuses there. The cool thing about a pencil is that it has an eraser. So you would just roughly kind of etch out the shape that you want. And then you can go back in and erase like areas that you didn't like and sharpen the corners or loosen them up or however that you would like until you get, you know, something like this, just a look that you want. But once you get that put onto your board, I'm going to go ahead and remove these circles for the handles first, and then we'll dive into the jigsaw. And if you're still not comfortable actually sketching on the piece of material that you're going to be using, then do it on a piece of cardboard that's the same size as your workpiece. Just sketch it out. If you don't like it, erase it, burn it, do whatever you want. But you won't have to worry about wasting your wood. However you want to do it, that's completely up to you. But why do I have a pencil in my hat and also in my hand? I have no clue. But what I was getting at is do not let your lack of drawing skills keep you from doing something like this. If you think it's cool, do it. You have to believe in yourself with pretty much everything. If you can see it in your head, you can mark out enough on a piece of cardboard or your piece of wood to get the results that you want. That's all that it's going to take, is trying it once. And then once you have proven to yourself that you can do it, the next time that it comes along, you're going to have no worries. And if you always want to be ready for anything whenever it comes to this, then keep an extra pencil in your hat, even when you have one in your hand. I'm going to start off by cutting my 2 holes. Then I'm going to rough the edges up just a bit. After I have my 2 holes cut, time to crack out the jigsaw. First I'll cut off the outside outline, and then I'll make my cut to separate the 2 boards. Once I have that done, I'm just going to shape the edges of these. Then once I get my desired look, I'll apply a food safe finish. And it's as easy as that. That's why they are selling a set for $56 on a site that normally jacks everything way up, because the cost of the item is so low and the time to make it is so short. So one last quick tip before we move on to the next one. Let's say that you're wanting to batch out 3 or 4 with the exact same design at the same time. So all that you'd have to do is stack your material on top of each other, sketch your design on the top board, or if you used cardboard, use that template. Then you will be able to make all of these cuts on several boards at the same time, making you even more money. So this next one I thought was super cool because pretty much every woodworker or DIYer out there will have this type of material. So check out these hanging crates for plants. And then we're actually going to take this one and build onto it for this next one. But what do you see here? Okay, so I see scraps, I see cutoffs, I see the little edging strips that we all keep, and you know that you do. Then you have this bundle of 3/4 of an inch cutoffs piled up in the corner of your shop, and you're just wondering, what am I ever going to do with this? Or your significant other is actually asking you, what are you ever going to do with this? Well, this is what you're going to do with it. And also let them know that there are other people that are worse than that out there, like me. This is actually 1/4 of an inch, and it's not even perfectly square. But I keep a bundle of this. This actually was what was left of a rabbet joint that I was cutting for some frames. So I'm pretty bad about throwing away wood. There's got to be something that I can make out of these. So if you have any ideas, drop it down into the comments and I'll make it. Because if not, the only thing that I can come up with is chopsticks. But anyway, my point is that most people will have this type of material laying around. And even if you don't, 3/4 of an inch material is probably one of the most popular thicknesses of material. So you definitely have some shorter pieces of that laying around. And the cool thing about these is you can make them pretty much any size. I can't really tell by these pictures how large the plants are that are in those, but it's really besides the point. They're all made the same way. So I'm going to say 3/4 of an inch material. And if you want to make small ones, let's say 6 or 8 inches, then you would just cut all of your parts the same length. Or you could do a larger one and do a 12 inch and build it the same way. So this whole project is kind of put together like Lincoln Logs. So to build this, I would actually put the bottom on last. So picture this without the bottom on it. Lay your 2 edge strips down and then just stack your next 2 pieces on top, making your perfect square. I'll throw a little bit of wood glue between each one of these and throw a brad nail into each corner. I'd use a speed square for the first couple just to make sure everything is square. Then you could just repeat this process, adding exterior wood glue, brad nails, all the way up until you get to the top, however high that you would like to build this thing. And at this point, there really is no top or bottom. I was just kind of giving you that as a visualization, doing away with the bottom. But without the bottom, everything else is the same. Then just choose which side is going to be your bottom. Use some wood glue, lay your bottom slats across, and then I would actually use screws to attach the bottom boards. Yes, this wood glue can hold a lot of weight, but these bottom slats are actually holding all of the weight. So just to be on the safe side, I'd throw a screw on each side. And then as far as hanging this, you could use twine, twisted up burlap, chain, whatever that you would like. Looks like that they've just used some nylon cordage here, but it's a super cool look, and you could build this for next to nothing. Keep all of this in mind as far as building these boxes, and that leads me to this next example. And that is going to be this cleat wall system with, do those boxes look familiar? And this is also showing you that those boxes do not have to be perfectly square. I mean, these are rectangle and it's a super cool look. So even if you just wanted to build one long one to actually hang, like they have at the very top of this, you could do it and it would look super cool. So that's what I mean whenever I say, see what others are doing and then get an idea from that to put your own twist to it and make your own version. So none of these rectangle boxes are actually hanging boxes, but they would make awesome hanging boxes. But if you wanted to do this cleat system, that's all that you would have to do is to make the boxes just like we talked about a minute ago. So for this setup, you would probably make them a little bit larger. So you may want to increase the size of your material to 1 inch by 1 inch. It's up to you. So since we already know how to make these boxes, this French cleat wall will really be the only difference, and it's pretty cool. You could actually make these walls and sell them in sections. That way it would pretty much fit anyone's living space. So I know that most of you know what a French cleat is and how to make it. In case you do not, real quick. You can take any size board. I'm going to oversize my example here, but essentially you can rip any board in half at a 45-degree angle, or you could take a single board and just cut a 45-degree angle on one edge. For this one, it looks like the cleats on the wall are probably 3 to 4 inches wide, and then whatever width the actual cleat is, they've used the exact same spacing in between. And then they have just fastened these cleats to a couple of boards that are fastened to their wall. So in this case, let's say this is our back slat. They've actually fastened the cleat just like this. Okay, you see how this side here is actually sticking out? That's the way that you would want it. Okay, so this is what it would look like from the front. That's what it would look like from the side. And again, this is our wall slat. The reason why we would want this angled down towards that wall support is because the mating board to this will actually be fastened to the back of your boxes. Now just imagine this piece with a box attached to the front, and then with that attached, and your cleat wall in place, that's all that you would have to do is slide your box over the section of the cleat wall and it locks into place. Okay, so that is your general French cleat system. I actually use it on several walls in my shop. It's an awesome system because nothing is locked into place. If you ever want to move things around or rearrange it, then you just lift up on it, move it over, raise it up, bring it down, do whatever you want. But they have taken that exact same concept, it's a super clean wood look, none of this ugly pegboard and all that stuff. They have integrated that concept into this wall of plants. So now picture this without any plants on it at all. What if we wanted this to just be a big shelving system? Then you could easily do it using French cleats. So again, take something that you see like this. I love this decorative French cleat concept and change it up. Remove those boxes and add something completely different. So you could add shelves like we talked about, or you can mix it up and actually do some of these boxes and shelves. Pretty much anything that you could build to hold something, you can attach a cleat to it and stick it on a cleat wall. So a quick cut in here. I know this is not the right video, but since we are talking about smalls that sell, how about a medium-sized build that sells? If you did not get a chance to check out last week's video on the transforming shelf, make sure to check that out. Like I've always said, in order to generate sales, you have to create something different. And this is definitely different. So this next one caught my eye because I was actually going to make fun of it at first. Then I got to looking at it. And it's actually pretty cool. Again, we've talked about this before. Go out to the firewood pile, get a log and turn it into 200 bucks. That's how much they're selling these things for. And they are super simple to build, especially if you can use a chainsaw. And even if you can't use a chainsaw, still easy to build. So the more that I looked at this and I'm thinking 200 bucks. 200 bucks for this log with legs. And it's because it is made to look super primitive. And I've actually seen original antique pieces like this where people would put legs on something like this and actually use it as a chopping block. And they're awesome. So one of the things that really got me here, just like one of the items that we talked about earlier, is they are pointing out all of the flaws. They want to prove that this is handmade. So if you look at the joinery, they're wanting this to look like it's dowel joinery. Look at the placement of the dowels. They're all off. Nothing's measured. Nothing's perfect. It's just wherever they decided to drill a hole. Most likely those are caps and it's actually put together with screws, but besides the point. Okay, so now check this out. Look at the top cuts here. You see how the top cuts go out past the legs? So the notch that this leg is sitting in was cut out with a chainsaw, or at least made to look like it was cut out with a chainsaw, which really doesn't fit into the whole primitive Americana look because they didn't have chainsaws back then. But regardless, they are pointing this out and actually highlighting it. Look at how much of that brown wood filler that they've had to use in all of these cuts. And again, they are wanting you to see this. So make it. These things are cool. These things will sell, and you can make them different sizes. If you have access to any type of wood like this, see if you can find something that's 12, 13 inches across the center, and then the same measurement for the height. So then once you have your block of wood that you're going to be using for your stool, and that's what they're calling this, is a stool, but when they have it staged up, they have it staged up with lamps, books, whatever, so you could actually raise the legs, make end tables. I mean, especially with the right kind of wood, people are going to buy these. So what I would do is cut my legs first. These legs are only about 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick. And then if you notice the part that's actually inset into the log, that is perfectly square at the top. So let's say that that is a full 4 inches. Honestly, really doesn't matter as long as it will hold the weight of the wood. So you could even use a 5-inch piece. But then once it drops down about 4 inches, so there's about a 4x4 section that's inset into the wood, it starts to gradually taper just a bit. So this is only like a 2 or 3 degree taper. Say that you decided to make your leg 18 inches long. You would just measure down that leg 4 inches, make a mark, and then the rest of that 14 inches, and you just take a straight edge and make your taper. Now to cut that taper, the easiest thing to do would just be to use a circular saw. Everything about this is rustic and primitive, so I'd use a circular saw, cut those out. Now on the legs, I would make sure to leave them all a little bit longer than what you're actually wanting the end result to be. And the reason why is because most of these logs, firewood, whatever, will not be cut perfectly square. It's just almost impossible to do with a chainsaw. So once you get these legs installed, say your wood's kind of sitting at a little bit of an angle, you can actually square that up by removing material from the bottom of your legs. So if you leave a little bit of extra length, even if your log's cut a little bit crooked, you could easily make it level at the top. But as far as installing it into the side of this log, I'd take that full 4" by 4" side, or 5" by 5", whatever width of material that you decided to use, place it onto the side of the log, bring it up to where the 4" depth is square with the bottom, right at that taper, and then just trace that out so you know that that's where it's going to be. And then use equal spacing from that point to mark your other two legs the exact same way. Now the fun part, if you're using a chainsaw, start at the top cut and then use a plunge cut. You're just plunging the blade straight into the material until you're to the width of the mark that you have made. And then for these sides, following your marks, just use the tip of the chainsaw to go straight down, connecting your horizontal cut. And then if you wanted to make things easier for removing that chunk, you could actually turn it over, do another plunge cut from the underneath, then another cut right in the middle, and you could probably just knock those chunks out with a hammer. For some reason, if they're still a little stuck, that's where an old wood chisel would come in handy. Another option, if you do not have a chainsaw, or if you're not comfortable using a chainsaw for cutting this out, is you can actually do it with one of these. So this is just a circular saw with a 4" blade. You could make these exact same cuts. Plunge this in from the back, turn it to the side, plunge on the right side, plunge on the left side, and you probably just have to cut out a couple of strips in the middle, because again, this material is only 1.5" 2" deep. So if you're not comfortable with a chainsaw, no excuses. If you have one of these, use that. If you don't have one, borrow one from your neighbor. But regardless of how you cut this notch out, even if you decide to use a handsaw and a chisel for the whole thing, once you get that material removed, go ahead and slide the leg into place. Again, it can fit very loosely. And look at all this filler that they've had to use. Once you have it roughly into place, then you could drill your holes for your dowel joinery, add some wood glue, and then hammer in your dowels if you want to connect the whole thing with dowels. If you actually want to use screws, counterbore in, insert your screws, then your dowels, cut them off flush, and then you get this look. Then just give everything a good sanding. I would actually contour over these legs a little bit, kind of make them look like they're following the arch of the seat itself, and you're done. This is a $200 stool that honestly I underestimated from the beginning, because this would look good sitting out on a porch or as a coffee table or an end table or a stool. I actually like this idea so much that I think that I'm going to make one just for the heck of it. So if I end up doing that, I don't think that it's going to be a video that everyone's going to want to watch. So I'll at least make sure to post it to the Patreon community. If you're interested in this type of behind the scenes content and the community aspect of the channel, then make sure to check it out. I'll throw a link on my website and in the description. This next one caught my eye because it was kind of interesting. Abstract wall art, like we've talked about in the past. And they're wanting $4,250 for this thing on sale. Okay, so they're doing you a favor. Get them while they're hot. I mean, they have to be flying off the shelves. Don't even try to make this for that kind of a price, but it is cool, and you can make this thing super cheap using scrap wood. So we've seen stuff like this before, but it's always had a border. And that's one of the things that caught my eye was there's no border to this. So that is what's making this different. So they realized that people are loving this abstract wall art, and they decided to take that and change it up by removing the borders. So actually by doing that, you can pretty much make any shape that your material comes out to be. And honestly, I like this style better than the ones with the actual traditional borders. So yes, this is super expensive, but this particular one is a giant piece. This monster's over 4 foot deep at its widest points and 12 foot long. Okay, so obviously you can kind of see what they've done here. They've taken random pieces of wood, they've drilled holes in them, they've cut notches in it, and then they've stained it all up to look old. They've used different species of wood and tons of different shapes. So they're actually wanting this to look like that it is cut-offs from pieces of wood, like scrap pieces if you were squaring something up. The difference between us and them, in order to sell quantity, they have to replicate this over and over. So they're actually having to make scrap pieces. We as creators and wood hoarders, we don't have to make our own scrap pieces. We've got a big pile of it. So get into your scrap pile, take a jigsaw, cut out a bunch of notches, make some weird looking shapes, stuff like that. Lay it all out onto a table until you get a design that you like. And then take scrap pieces of plywood, paint it all black because that is the backing for all of this. So any of those notches, holes, anything like that, it's just going to show up as black. So regardless of what you decide to do with your plywood, again, after it's all painted black, set it on your table, then lay out all of your pieces on top of that piece of plywood until you get the abstract design that you like. So with all your parts into place, then just carefully trace around everything. So you're tracing your design out onto the plywood. Then you would just slide this off onto a table, kind of like what you do with a puzzle, and then jigsaw out what you have traced. Once you get that done, go ahead and paint the edges that you've just cut black. Then you'll put all of your pieces back into place using wood glue. And then if you want it for extra support, just flip this baby over, throw in some brad nails and some screws, and you're done. No, you will not be able to get 4,000 and whatever dollars that they're trying to get out of this, but with the right market and the right marketing, you could easily sell a cool project like this as abstract art, throw some cash in your pocket, and decrease your scrapwood pile. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I hope that you were able to take something from this. Even if none of these projects sparked your interest, take away the aspect of looking at things from a different perspective. So seeing one idea and then recreating it to make it your own. That is called creativity and thinking divergently, and you can do it. Till next time, we'll see ya.